Welcome to Car Sales Talk 101, where it's all about life in the car business. Telling you like it is. Here's the man with the plan, Terry Cameron. Let's get started.
Welcome back to Car Sales Talk 101. I'm Terry Cameron. This week I want to talk about a problem that's pretty prevalent in the car business, probably worldwide, and that's skating customers. Now, I think it's Webster's definition of skating is the act of gliding on skates. Well, I'm not talking about that, even though sometimes we joke about it on the showroom floor and we pretend to be on skates as we slide across the showroom floor. But my definition of skating is the act of purposely obtaining another person's client without their permission and or knowledge, or in short, stealing. In other industries, they call this fraud, which usually ends up in termination or even worse. I tried to find some research. I tried to research a little bit on skating, and there's not a whole bunch out there. And then I realized that I don't have to look far. I can see this almost every day happening on my showroom floor, and needless to say, it's going to end. Now, I'm not saying that I have salespeople that are out there blatantly stealing customers, but it happens. And I think with a little bit of extra effort, we can make sure that skating is eliminated from our showroom floor. But first and foremost, you need a manager that will enforce the rules. Bad managers really don't care about skating. They want those go-getters. They want them to get out there and get a customer. They want the salespeople with killer instinct. And as soon as that's allowed by the management team, there goes the whole farm. You should have nothing but a bunch of thieves on your showroom floor. Now, I bet if you asked the general manager or the dealer if they mind having thieves on the showroom floor, they'd answer with the no, of course. Years ago, I remember the dealer that I worked for and work for right now telling me that if he catches anybody skating, he's going to fire him. He said that's stealing. And if they're going to steal from their own friends and co-workers, they're going to steal from him. And he just did not like having those type of people on the showroom floor. He went on to say that he wants friends and family members of his to come buy cars at the dealership that he owns. But he doesn't want to have to worry about what type of salesperson is going to up them or help them. He wants honest, trustworthy salespeople. And doesn't that make sense? I mean, we already have such a bad name in the world. Car salespersons, car salesmen. We have a bad rap. And things like this just add on to it. And if the customers don't know that's what happens on a daily basis, the salespeople do. And the good ones end up leaving because they can't be seen or can't feel good working with people like that. And then they spread the word about what happens in the car business. Just adds to the negative view they have on car salespeople. Now, let me give you an example what I mean by not necessarily blatant skating, but it is skating. I'm not going to use any names because I don't want to throw any of my salespeople under the bus. And I really think that I do have, for the most part, honest salespeople. But we had a customer come in the showroom floor, come in the door. Salesperson greeted them and asked if they've ever been here before. And they said yes. He said, well, great, let me show you the cars. Well, if I can hear that, I expect to hear one more question come out of his or her mouth after that. I expect them to ask, well, who were you working with? And if you don't do that and the customer or the salesperson is still there, you're skating them. Now, I don't want you to put the bright, shiny lights on their face and interrogate them. If they don't remember the salesperson, or if they can't remember their name, I don't want you to say what they look like. But if the customer comes on and says, I really can't remember their name, but it was a tall white guy with a bald head and a tattoo on his wrist. Now, I don't have a customer or a salesperson like that, but if they did that and you know who it is, give it to them. They remembered them, and obviously they want to work with that salesperson again. But sometimes it is really blatant. We come in and we know the customer was working with another salesperson yesterday, and they're off today. We saw them with them, and we go into the CRM. We change the spelling of their name from Bob to Robert, and maybe mess up one digit on the phone number so we don't get a skate alert, and we continue to sell that customer a car. Of course, we let that customer know that we're going to give the salesperson they were working with full credit for it. It's their day off, and we work like partners here. Yeah, right. It's not very unusual for skating to cause some kind of violence in your dealership. I mean, I've seen salespeople actually fight, actually punch one another in front of the customer. Arguments in the sales meetings in the mornings, threats to go out back and settle it man to man. Those things there's no place for that in the dealership. And if we're allowing that to happen, we need to get rid of those folks. And managers, if you're allowing that to happen, you need to take a look in the mirror and quit looking out the window. This is your problem and you can fix it. Again, like I said, the sad truth is that management turns a blind eye to skating sometimes. We like those go-getters, and we'll allow skating to happen because all we want to do is sell a car, hit that number. You know what you're doing? You're pushing the good salespeople out of the business. Okay, salespeople, but what do? If you're a good salesperson, they should come in and ask for you by name, correct? But if they don't you think that something happened or you didn't give them a good enough impression for them to remember your name? Or quite possibly, after they left, you never followed up with them? CYA, cover your ass. Make sure that customer is in the CRM ASAP. Make sure you follow up that as soon as they leave, you follow up with a text. You're gonna stay in touch with them. Remember, 80% of them are going to buy within a week anyway. And even if they don't buy within a week, you ought to stay in touch with them on a quarterly basis because they are going to buy again. And if your name is in front of them on a regular basis, they will for sure ask for you. Of course, some of them are going to slip through the cracks. But for the most part, most of them will ask for you. Most dealerships have other rules to try to eliminate skating. One of them is the 72-hour rule. And I think I like that one. If a customer comes on the lot and you're working with them, and then they come back 3 days later and they don't ask for you, or you're not there, no fault of your own, you should get half of that deal. Because within 72 hours, you did something, said something to impress them enough to come back. Now, after that, if they come back, it's anybody's game. Unless, of course, the customer asks for you. Here's another example of what some salespeople consider skating and I don't. Salesperson number one sells a car to the customer, and a year later the customer comes back in and wanted to buy another car or brings a friend in to buy a car, but they buy from a different salesperson. We look into the CRM, at least I do. The first thing I do is I look in the CRM and see what type of contact has been made. And over the past year, if there hasn't been any contact, or really over the past several months, if there has not been any contact with that customer, it's fair game. And please, salespeople, do not run up to that customer and question them and ask them why they did not ask for you. You might just get embarrassed. I've seen it happen too many times. Guys, skating is terrible, and it just the showroom is a completely different place to work when you can't trust the people that you're working with. Let's not make this a funny thing. Let's be professionals. If a customer comes in and you know they were working with somebody, make sure that somebody gets that customer. And if it's their day off, make sure they get half of that deal. Make sure you get with your sales manager. Your sales manager should be able to give you some clear guidance on how to handle that. But the last thing you want to do is skate that customer. I've been skated by people that I thought were my friends. As soon as you throw money into the equation, it's amazing what will happen. They become deadly. Another way to cover your ass is schedule an appointment. Put it in the CRM. Schedule that appointment and then have that appointment confirmed. Do something else to ensure that nobody else is going to get your customer. When I sold cars, my nickname was TC. We had Larry, we had Sherry, we had all kinds of people that kind of sounded like Terry. So I wanted to make sure they didn't get my customers by accident. I know they wouldn't skate me. Yeah, right. I told my customers to make sure they ask for TC. That's the only way they're going to get the deal that we talked about is by asking for TC. I even gave them a scenario of what was going to happen when they come to the dealership. When you get to the dealership, if somebody doesn't walk up to you, you'll walk through the front door, go to the receptionist, and there's going to be several people hanging around there. You just make sure you ask all of them. I'm working with Terry, or I'm working with TC, or I'm working with Bob, I'm working with whoever it may be. You got to cover your ass. If you worked really hard to get them back in, you deserve to get paid for it. Quit skating your customers, your fellow salesperson's customers, and managers quit allowing it to happen. This is such a good business when we run it the right way and we do it honestly. Remember, guys, the sky's the limit. I'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. Please rate it and write a review on Apple Podcast. We appreciate your valuable feedback. You can email Terry at 10minutessalestalk@hot.rr.com. And don't forget to share the show with a friend.